At the edge of a vast, meandering river, the first light of dawn touches the dense forests of ancient Africa. The air is thick with humidity, carrying the smell of wet earth, decaying vegetation, and the faint, primal scent of life teeming in every corner. This was a world far removed from the comforts of civilization, where survival was a relentless test and the line between hunter and prey was razor thin. Here, among the reeds and riverbanks, two species, one small, one monstrous, were about to collide in a deadly encounter that would define the struggle for survival in an age when life was raw, brutal, and breathtakingly unpredictable. Homo habilis, one of the earliest members of our genus, moved cautiously along the water's edge. Their bodies were a striking blend of ape and human traits, with long arms suited for climbing and manipulation, but bipedal legs capable of steady, if uneven, movement across open ground. Their faces were expressive, their eyes constantly scanning, reflecting both intelligence and instinct. They were scavengers, opportunistic hunters, and survivors of an unforgiving landscape, armed only with simple stone tools and an innate understanding of the dangers that lurked in every shadow. The river, wide and glistening under the sun, seemed deceptively calm, yet beneath its surface, giant catfish, ancestors of creatures that today provoke awe and fear in equal measure, lurked. These were not the modest river fish that some might imagine. These predators could stretch to lengths unimaginable to Homo habilis, with muscular bodies designed for sudden bursts of power. Their mouths, wide and cavernous, were lined with gill rakers and sensory barbels, detecting every vibration in the water. For these ancient catfish, the river was both a hunting ground and a sanctuary, a kingdom in which they reigned supreme. The encounter began with subtle tension, almost imperceptible at first. Homo habilis approached the water to collect mollusks, small fish, or the occasional amphibian. Their survival depended on these minor rewards, each meal a step toward maintaining strength and cognitive development. But the river had its own rules, and the catfish, sensing movement, slowly pivoted in the shadows. Their barbels twitched like antennae, mapping the approaching presence of a new and unfamiliar creature. A single ripple traveled through the water, unnoticed by human eyes, but enough to alert the predator that something edible and potentially dangerous was near. Instinctively, Homo habilis crouched lower, hands brushing the wet mud, eyes fixed on the water. They had learned caution the hard way. The river had claimed many of their kind before. But there was curiosity too, a spark of intelligence that drove them to risk the water's edge. Their stone tools were primitive but effective, sharpened rocks, sticks used to probe and distract. Yet against a creature of such size and speed, these tools offered only a chance, not a guarantee. The catfish remained still, a dark shadow beneath the surface, waiting for the exact moment to strike. Suddenly, a splash, a momentary disturbance that shattered the fragile equilibrium. A juvenile antelope stumbled into the river upstream, and the catfish reacted instantly. Its body uncoiled with explosive force, propelling it forward in a deadly arc. Water sprayed in every direction, creating chaos along the riverbank. Homo habilis froze, adrenaline surging. They understood danger in a visceral way. Their survival depended on reading every micro-movement in their environment. One wrong step, one misjudgment, and they could join the countless prey already lost to the river's depths. Yet it was not just raw strength at play here. Homo habilis had evolved a combination of observation and improvisation. They began to communicate in primitive gestures, signaling each other to retreat or flank, to distract or defend. One lifted a branch, waving it toward the catfish, creating a series of splashes that mimicked movement elsewhere. Another prepared a stone, weighing it in his palm, ready to throw. These early humans had discovered that intelligence could level the playing field against sheer physical power. It was strategy born from necessity, and for Homo habilis, every encounter with a predator was a lesson in adaptation. The river exploded with motion. The catfish lunged again, sensing vulnerability, its mouth opening in a terrifying display. The water churned, carrying debris and waves of mud as Homo habilis dodged, leaped, and retaliated with thrown stones. One struck the predator along its head, causing a brief hesitation, enough to reveal its massive form, the glistening scales, the sheer power coiled in its muscular body. For a fleeting second, predator and prey were locked in a silent standoff, each evaluating the other, each aware that this battle could end life or prolong it. Homo habilis knew they could not afford direct confrontation. The catfish, though formidable, was vulnerable outside its aquatic domain. By retreating to higher ground and luring the predator toward the riverbank, they could exploit its need to remain partially submerged. The humans worked in subtle coordination, distracting and redirecting, using their knowledge of terrain as a weapon. They understood patterns, the sway of reeds, the slope of mud, the ripple of currents, and harnessed them to survive. Every decision was critical, a blend of instinct honed over generations and the nascent intelligence that defined their species. As the hours passed, the encounter evolved from pure confrontation to a tense negotiation of space. The catfish, massive and powerful, struck repeatedly, testing the humans' defenses. Homo habilis responded with clever tactics, throwing stones in arcs, stomping along the riverbank to create vibrations that mimicked movement elsewhere, retreating to cover and attacking when advantageous. The river became a stage for a battle of wits and reflexes, a choreography dictated by life or death. The humans' endurance, awareness, and adaptability were tested like never before, while the predator relied on sheer strength, timing, and the element of surprise. This deadly encounter also highlighted the subtle interplay between environment and survival. The river, while a source of sustenance, was also a trap. The surrounding forest offered concealment and tools, yet restricted mobility. Every tree, rock, and patch of mud became part of the strategy. Homo habilis demonstrated an understanding of cause and effect, of sequences that led to advantage. The catfish, meanwhile, exemplified the perfection of evolutionary design, a creature optimized for explosive hunting, capable of sensing even the slightest hint of prey. Here, two evolutionary paths intersected, each honed for survival in different dimensions, each tested by the other. Eventually, the intensity began to wane. The catfish, thwarted by strategy and persistence, retreated into deeper water. Its massive body slid beneath the surface, disappearing into the murky currents, leaving only ripples and disturbed sediment as evidence of its presence. Homo habilis exhaled collectively, muscles tense, hearts racing. They had survived, but not without cost. Scratches, bruises, the lingering awareness that the river could claim them at any moment. Survival was not a guarantee. It was an ongoing negotiation, a test that required intelligence, caution, and courage. This encounter left a lasting impression on both species. For Homo habilis, it reinforced the value of cooperation, the advantage of tools, and the power of observation. Each encounter with a predator was a lesson encoded in memory, influencing future decisions and shaping the development of early intelligence. For the catfish, the humans represented a persistent nuisance, creatures that interfered with hunting patterns but could be avoided if careful. This dynamic, predator versus early human, illustrated the delicate balance of ancient ecosystems, where every species played a role in a complex web of survival. As the sun rose higher, the river returned to a deceptive calm. Homo habilis moved cautiously, foraging for food, repairing primitive tools, and marking safe paths along the banks. Their senses remained alert, every sound and movement a potential signal of danger.
the memory of the giant catfish lingered, shaping behavior and awareness. Each member of the group had learned something vital about risk, reward, and the strategies required to survive in a world dominated by natural forces far larger and stronger than themselves. This deadly encounter, though violent and dangerous, was also transformative. Homo habilis, through observation, experimentation, and collaboration, began to forge a path toward mastery over their environment. They were small, vulnerable, and limited in physical power, yet intelligence allowed them to challenge predators far larger than themselves. These moments were the crucible of evolution, where survival demanded both cunning and courage, where each challenge refined the skills that would eventually define the genus Homo. In the end, the river, the forest, and the giant catfish were more than mere obstacles. They were teachers. They forced adaptation, ingenuity, and resilience. Homo habilis emerged from each encounter not just alive, but